The janitor's heart almost stopped when he saw the black, tar-like sludge seeping from underneath the door. In all his years on the job, he'd never seen anything like that. It was an old building, practically ancient. Probably one of the cheapest tenement buildings in one of the most deprived slums of New York City. One of the few still untouched by the ever-extending tendrils of gentrification. The kind of place where the lost and desperate ended up. Rent paid weekly, in cash, no questions asked. And when a resident up sticks, left town, or just straight up disappeared, the neighbors and administrators knew better than to look into it. If someone disappeared from a place like this, it meant they didn't want to be found. Or worse, if you did find them, you wouldn't like what you found. The janitor noticed a strange smell coming from the fluid. Not the typical stench you'd expect from fluids you might see gurgling out from beneath the door of a shared bathroom. It smelled like ozone, like the crackle in the air after lightning struck. Something almost otherworldly. But he's got a job to do, and if a bad feeling is enough to make you renege on a job, you don't have the stomach to be a janitor. He exhales, steels himself, and steps inside the bathroom. The soft soles of his shoes squeaked against the filthy tiles, just avoiding the tide of black sludge oozing from one of the 3 closed stalls in the room. Something about it made him uncomfortable, even after all the things he'd seen. And when you're a career janitor, a hired gun cleaning contractor in the rougher parts of New York City's underbelly, you've definitely seen some awful things. He's armed only with a mop. With hands inexplicably trembling, he reaches out and pushes open the door, having no idea what to expect on the other side. But there's nothing in there. Nothing but a toilet disgorging that terrible dark ooze with a low gurgling sound. At least he's alone in the room, he thinks. He hopes. As he gets closer to the clearly malfunctioning toilet, he considers the possibilities. Hopefully it's a problem deeper in the pipe. That'd be a plumber's problem, not his. He'd be able to wash his hands of all this vileness, metaphorically and literally, and get the hell out of this cursed old building. Leave its damned souls to their business, rotting in the dark. But up close, staring right over the toilet bowl, he sees something strange, something floating in the sludge. He pulls on a rubber glove and reaches in. He feels the shape of it down there, a shape that's oddly familiar. Is that a pair of glasses? He tries to pull them out and get a better look, but they won't budge out of that burnt-smelling muck. It's not stuck on something. Worse, like something is gripping onto it from the other side, pulling it back into the depths of the toilet. A foul bubble at the surface of the sludge pops, and as it does, he hears a drowned voice from the depths of the john.
"Those are mine now,"
it says in a terrible rasp. The janitor feels something, almost like hands closed around his wrist inside the sludge, and a dragging force more powerful than anything he's ever felt. His scream echoes in the hallway outside before the sludge drowns it out. Someone might have come to help him somewhere else, might have heard his cries and come running. But in a building like this, everyone knows to mind their own business and not get involved. If you hear a scream in a building like this, no, you didn't. But that building would be hearing some more screams very, very soon. The next morning, a salesman wakes up on the 3rd floor of the tenement building. He was sleeping when the janitor had his little incident on the bottom floor, so he didn't hear a thing. Instead, he's woken up by his own wet, hacking coughs, a side effect of many years of customer loyalty to Philip Morris USA. He worries about his health a lot, always has, but he's had a very good reason to worry about it more lately. He gets up, pulls on his cheap suit, and waddles into the basement to shave. Once his round chin is as cleaved of unsightly hair as he can manage on his ancient Gillette, he splashes on the aftershave that he knows is going to change his life. And that's because this aftershave is his own creation, a beautiful peppermint elixir in a blue crystal bottle, perfectly designed to moisturize delicate skin after shaving and leave you smelling great. For several years now, he'd been keeping no fewer than 30 of these bad boys packed tight in his briefcase. Everywhere he went, whether he was sitting on the bus or running into strangers at the grocery store, he tried to pitch this miracle aftershave. "You'll never have a better shave," he'd say. Normally, the response was a bemused smile, the wrinkling of eyes and baring of clenched teeth. But he knew that when they tried it for themselves, it had changed their lives, just like it had changed his, if ever people started buying it. The salesman had done everything he should have done. He followed all the rules in the entrepreneur books he bought. He'd even had some chats with potential angel investors, and they'd seemed interested. They just wanted some proof that his product could scale. That's why he'd taken a loan. Nothing abnormal about that, but seeing as the banks had already cut him off for late payment on loans for previous ventures, he'd needed to seek more unconventional forms of investment. That's what led him to the dangerous men in the smoke-filled rooms, the connected guys. Cash-rich, but not eager to part with that cash until they'd established a 45% interest rate. And if the salesman couldn't sell off enough of these units to repay his debt, then it won't be a matter of the bank repossessing his car again. It'd be scary men with crowbars coming to repossess his knees. That's why he'd moved to this tenement building. A man like him is best off keeping a low profile while he's building a little liquidity. He had some clients in the suburbs today, discerning folks that he was sure would be simply falling over themselves to buy his revolutionary new aftershave. Little did he know, he was already haunted. Haunted by something terrible and dangerous that would soon bring about his demise in the worst imaginable way. But before death, there would be humiliation. He went to the delightful bungalow of his first prospective client, looking spruced up, steady, organized, all the things he didn't actually feel. His briefcase gripped tight in his sweaty palm, filled with all the samples of his miracle product. However, when the door opened, he immediately knew something was wrong. The man at the door, in his red sweater and pleated slacks, was smiling at first, but then his nose wrinkled up and he recoiled slightly, as though the salesman said or did something that had offended him, and it all starts to go downhill from there. The salesman reels off his well-rehearsed spiel about how this is the best-smelling, fastest-acting, and most ethical aftershave on the market, but while his prospective client nods along, he's still got that disgusted look on his face, the look you might have while looking at roadkill or a bowl full of rotten fruit crawling with maggots. When the speech ends, the salesman asks how many units the prospective customer might want to buy, but the man makes his excuses and asks for the salesman to leave. The salesman is devastated, tries to argue the merits of his cause, but it's already too late. The former prospective customer insisted that he leave. The salesman, filled with boiling indignity, demands to know why he was being told to leave. That opened the door for some almost inevitable unpleasantness on the other side. "Because," the man says, trying to find the words, "it's clear you've been almost constantly farting since you got in here, sir, and I have no interest in buying any product that would make me smell anything like you." It hits the salesman like a nuclear bomb. It was impossible. He'd put on the aftershave this morning, and as far as he knew, he hadn't farted once since he'd entered this man's house. But that was the first domino that would lead to the inevitable downfall. He still has several other clients he needs to see today, but the damage is already done. Every single other person he sees, he can spot that same look on each of their faces, that distinctive, crumpled, "who cut the cheese in here" grimace. Every single one of them made their excuses and tried to get him out of their place of residence as quickly as possible. He knows they can all smell it. They're just too polite to say. And the scariest part, as the salesman tries to drive home, is that he can't smell it. All that he can smell is the refreshing peppermint bouquet of the aftershave that at the start of today he was so confident would get him out of this hole. He was so confident that he'd be able to pay back his creditors and keep his knees intact. Now, as he drives, he's wondering if he's getting sick. Maybe that's what all those people could smell. Something rotting inside his bowels. Oh God, that's just what he needs, some festering hidden cancer. As if life wasn't already hard enough. He pulls in at the nearest supermarket and buys some over-the-counter laxatives. Anything unusual about his excrement would be the surest way to tell whether death was lurking inside him, and in that sense, he's right. Just not in the way he expects. Soon enough, he needs to pull off the road again and head into a nearby gas station that advertised having a bathroom. He needed to buy $10 worth of gas and a Snickers before the rampant teenager at the counter gave him the key, but in a situation like this, he'd do anything he needs to. Moments later, he's on the can, gripping the walls for dear life as the world falls out of him. He breathes heavily, sweat beading on his forehead. The fact that nobody else is in here is the first and perhaps only stroke of luck he's had all day. And when he thinks he's done, when there's literally nothing in him left to evacuate, he sighs and stands up. His legs shake as he cranes his neck slowly to look back inside the bowl, terrified to see some telltale sign of something malignant working within. But what's actually waiting there in the toilet is so much worse. He screams when he sees it. A human face, scrunched up and emerging out of the U-bend. Wide eyes, a grinning mouth full of yellow teeth, a stark white handlebar mustache. The man in the toilet. Did it come out of him? The man in the toilet begins to laugh, a terrible, choked sound that makes bubbles rise up out of the water towards the surface. The edges of the face seem to fold up as multiple grasping hands, each with only 3 fingers on long, wriggling arms that slithered bonelessly out beyond the toilet seat.
Don't forget to flush, Sonny.
The awful face in the toilet says. The salesman is taken by the hands and dies with his pants down. The sad tales of the salesman and the janitor aren't the only reports from this particular cursed tenement. The few children who live there have the most strange and terrible nightmares. Or at least, nightmares are how their parents choose to see it. If you were to ask any of the children, they'd tell you a different story. They'd tell you about the voice that they hear in the middle of the night, the echoey voice of a grown man trying to beckon them, to lure them into the bathroom. The voice would say things like,
"Hey kid, come here. I've got some chocolate for you."
And,
"Little kid, I got a surprise for you. You're gonna love it."
nobody knows what will happen if ever any of the children go and take a look. We've just been lucky that none of them have ever fallen prey to the man's temptations. If they did, this particular part of the story might have had a much darker ending. But the adults who were lucky enough to not be killed experienced their own frightening symptoms of the horrors going on in that tenement building. We've all gone to the bathroom in the middle of the night, haven't we? Maybe haunted by the Taco Bell we'd eaten earlier in the day, or suffering the call of nature after drinking a tall glass of water before bed. Many of the residents of the building are just like you in that sense. And many times when they go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, they elect to not turn on the lights. Their eyes adjust quickly to the darkness, living in a building like this. But while on the toilet, they suddenly feel a sharp pain in one of their butt cheeks. They're perhaps reminded of an article they read about outhouses in rural Australia a few years ago, where venomous spiders lurk underneath the toilet seats, enjoying the warm, wet dark and not very much liking being mooned while trying to get on with life. They know that New York City doesn't have the same spiders as the land down under, but they might have brown recluses. Those who feel the sudden pain decide they should go to a local clinic the next day just to make sure that everything is looking healthy on their own personal land down under. And you can only imagine their shock when they arrive at the clinic, drop their drawers, and assume the position. They don't see what the doctor sees through the curtains of their medical smock. He wonders if all of his patients are being truthful with him, as he sees a large, red, human bite mark on each of his patients' cheeks. All of this may seem like the bizarre fantasies of a deranged mind, like a plumber experiencing a salvia trip after having a particularly rough day on the job. But these tales of pain and horror can be explained by the SCP Foundation, thanks to the files they keep on SCP-789-J, also known as the Butt Ghost. Please don't laugh. I'm aware of the elemental comedic power of the gluteus maximus and its ability to wring laughter out of even the most mirthless of audiences, but this particular anal anomaly is no laughing matter, unless that's an incoherent laugh of pure terror in the moments you experience before your painful death. The potential effects of the wretched butt ghost are myriad, from residing in toilets or inhabiting the accursed butts themselves to communicating with people from their toilets, even devouring the tuchuses of the innocent for little more than amusement. Many investigations into the origin of the butt ghost have been inconclusive, but here are our 3 leading theories as it currently stands. In our first theory, we believe that the butt ghost may have originally been the butt of a decorated Confederate soldier whose butt was shot off by a Union howitzer during the Battle of Little Perineum. While the soldier's butt was killed, The soldier himself survived after surgery and went on to become the incumbent senator of Alabama. He's actually still alive and in that same seat today. But we think the ghost of his original butt may be vengeful as a result of not getting to share that seat with him. In our second theory, we think the butt ghost may have originated as a result of a failed experiment at Greaseburger Incorporated, an exceptionally sleazy capitalist venture with various anomalous associations. It's been a group of interest for the Foundation for quite some time. A test subject for a fitness drug designed to give the user more toned glutes may have resulted in a total anomalous cellular death for the butt of a test subject, creating a violent butt ghost as an unintentional side effect. In our third theory, which I will admit might be the most frightening of all, we think it may have something to do with the Gutchell Project. This is an extremely controversial DARPA operation that hoped to somehow weaponize the butts of soldiers for use in combat, even after the death and total obliteration of the soldier they were attached to. This project's leaked files are believed to be the origin of the phrase, "an ass that won't quit." And perhaps DARPA did, in fact, invent this terrifying living weapon, which then escaped the lab into the wider world after killing everyone there. Regardless of which of these is true, if any, the effects of the butt ghost have clearly been widespread. As is the case with all terrifying things, it's even made its way into a Minecraft mod, one that I hope the Foundation is presently working on containing, because anything that presents this active anomaly as anything less than the absolute danger it is presents a serious danger to the innocent public. It can't be allowed to stand. The actual containment procedures for SCP-789-J are classified, so much so that only members of the O5 Council are able to read them. Anyone else would have their lives swiftly ended by a Langley Soryu mimetic kill agent. But if you ask for my personal professional opinion, there's only one answer to all of this. We need to take extreme measures to end the tyranny that toilets and butts have over our lives. We need an international campaign in association with the world's governments to destroy every porcelain throne on the planet. It's the only way to be sure that this creature won't evolve into a potential XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. We will instead return to defecating into large trenches, dug daily anew into nearby wooded areas. And to reduce the damage that all butts have the potential to do to us, I've devised a planning proposal called Operation Silent But Deadly. If this plan is accepted, we will use either mass surgical operations, reality warping anomalies, or psychic flesh spells to seal up every butt crack across the globe. To filter waste from our bodies, we will instead allow it to exit through an antibacterial plastic tube attached to our colons, which will be inserted into each of our lower abdomens. Now, I realize that it may seem like an extreme change to all of our bodies and lifestyles, but desperate times call for desperate measures, my dear junior researchers. Maybe all of this has still left you frightened and confused. The question plays on your mind like a record stuck on eternal skip. Can such doom come from a ghostly rectum? To which I respond, rectum? No. It killed him. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-705, Militaristic Play-Doh.